Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Fair warning for everybody. I'm not feeling too chipper today. Got an appointment to go to the doctor tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but we're going to muddle through and try to have a good live stream today. Today is a follow-up to the video that went live this morning, part 12 of the Vectric 12 Plus, version 12 Plus for Absolute Beginners series. And I decided that I was trying to put too much into one video by trying to do rotate and then mirror in the same video. So split them up. Mirroring selected objects will be next. Don't know when that's going to be. As I said, things are kind of sketchy right now, but we'll muddle on through. So if anybody has any questions at all about today's video or any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I've already got one question lined up. But before we get into this, I want to give a shout out to and say hi to my friend Steve over at Harneal Media. I've been singing the praises of Harneal Media for several years now, and I'm going to continue until he tells me to stop, simply because I like the service he gives me. And it's 100% top notch, 100% personalized service. You're dealing with Steve when you're dealing with Harneal Media. I consider him a friend, and I'm very grateful for everything he's done for me and my website, marklindsaycnc.com. So if you're even toying with the idea of a website, maybe you want to set up an e-store, you want to put your products or your services out to the public at large. You don't want to deal with commissions. You don't want to deal with listing fees. You don't want to deal with any of that other stuff. You just want to have a website where folks can come on and buy direct from you. Do yourself a favor and get over to harnealmedia.com. Now, there's a link to Harneal Media in every video and live stream on this channel, and it's that way for a reason. So do yourself a favor, get over to harnealmedia.com, click on that contact us link, and shoot Steve a message. He will work with you. He's very competitively priced, and again, 100% personal service. So thank you, Steve, for everything you do. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I hope everything's doing well for you and yours. All right. If anybody has any questions at all, in reference to Earth-based CNC, this is the place to get going. I take it nobody really has any questions on the video this morning, because I'm not seeing any. Now, John Thumb has a quick question. I can handle this one fairly quickly. Any ideas why, when I try to flatten my cutting board, the 2-inch bit gets stuck and the bit stops spinning? I tried to tighten it, but no luck. Okay. Number one, are you dealing with a router or a spindle? Either way, do know that collets wear out. They crack, and they do occasionally need to be replaced. So, okay, it's a spindle. It's quite possible that you just need to replace the collet. Maybe the collet and the collet nut. But that's the first thing I would do, is I would check. You really can't. Well, you can visibly check the collet. Look at the little web pieces in there. Look for cracks. If you see any cracks, don't use that collet anymore. Just right now, just stop using that collet. Get you another one. Kurt over at Crafty Drans brings up a good point about pass depth. You got to be careful about pass depth. 20 thousandths depth. I do that all the time. It should not stop that bit spinning. I don't know what RPMs you're running. I run my 2-inch bit at 14,000 RPMs, sometimes 16,000. It depends on what I'm surfacing. But I'm also running it at 200. I'm also running at 200 inches per minute. Let's see. It did crash on me last week with the same bit, so I might have done something best. Yeah, I would probably, number one, I would inspect that collet to see is it cracked. And if it is, chuck it. It's worthless. It's scrap metal now. If it's not cracked, order you a new one. And I would probably stop using that collet as well, and just use the new one when you get it. But if you had a crash, that may be. So Sam Spade says, I get the notifications for the members only Mondays. Yes. And this meeting. Yes. But you talk about a video earlier in the day. How do we find that? On my YouTube channel. If you're subscribed, it should be, it depends on how you have your notifications set up, but it should be in your subscription feed. Just go to my YouTube channel and it should be the very first video up on the top left when you click videos on my channel. So let's see here now. We have another question from Bruce Malmstrom. Says, looking at 3 different size circles stacked on each other as a step down for shoulders, okay? Looking to merge as one cut with the same tool. Okay. Here's, let's see, take that down and we'll throw a spire in. We've got 3 circles. I'll just go ahead and make some circles here. Doesn't really matter what their size is. So I'll put them at X0, Y0. And we'll start with a 4-inch diameter circle. Then we'll do a 6-inch diameter circle. Then we'll do an 8-inch, 8-inch diameter circle. Okay. So we want this to be the surface of the material. I take it you're stepping down. I don't know how far you're stepping down. I figure it, I'll go a 1/4 of an inch. Okay. And we'll zip over here. I'm going to do a pocket cut right here to hollow out this area here. And I'll cut it a 1/4 of an inch deep. And we'll remove that bit. And I'll use 1/4 inch end mill. All right. Then, oops. No, I haven't calculated yet. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do offset. And there's that one. All righty. Close. And now I'll do this one, another 1/4 inch. So we're looking at a total of a 1/2 inch deep on this one. Same bit. And we'll calculate that one. So when we preview all the tool paths, that's what we end up with. Yeah, I need to open that out a little bit. Well, that's all right. I need to offset that one outwards. I'll just do a, let me reset the preview. I'll go to this one. And we're going to do a pocket allowance of, let's go with 33. thousandths. So we're going to go negative 0.30. And we'll calculate that one. And now we'll preview all the tool paths. There we go. That took care of that little fuzzy edge that we had here. Just made it cut that pocket a little bit wide. So now the thing is, you want this to go from largest to smallest. You want it to cut this first, then this, and then leave this one flat. Yeah, you can do that. And the way you do that is you rearrange this, you rearrange the order here. So I'm going to move this pocket down so it'll cut this second. Then I'll go ahead and close my preview. I'll select both of these. Now you've got two choices here. You can either merge these tool paths. You can group these tool paths. I would merge them personally. So create merge tool path, and we want to go, we'll uncheck those. We'll merge by part. Yeah. Okay. And we'll go that way. Now, let me reset the preview. I'm going to run the merge toolpath, but I'm going to slow it down so we can see what's going on. And we're going to preview that selected toolpath. I don't need to slow it down that much. Let's make sure here. Okay, we are cutting the large one first. And I can go ahead and run that at full speed, just because it's taken forever to do. Then there we go. So you can, excuse me, you can rearrange the order here. I have the larger outside pocket cutting first, pocket 2, then this one cutting second. So you arrange them here, then merge the tool paths. And this is the tool path you will save. Now, if you don't necessarily have to use merge tool paths. Let me turn off the vectors here. Because when you go to save these tool paths, let me delete this. Nope. Control Z. I want to delete the merge. Oh, ungroup. That's what I was looking for. I'll get it. You don't necessarily have to even merge them, because when you go to save the tool paths, you're going to save visible tool paths to one file. You have them in the order that you want them in. Just click this right here. These both use the same tool, so there won't be any issues there. This will save one G-code file, and it will still run in the same order that we just ran. Okay. So you can merge the tool paths, or you can just save the G-code for these two tool paths, and it'll save in one G-code file. So I hope that helps you out, Bruce. Is that what you were wondering? Now, John Thumb is asking, can you merge if the paths use different bits? You can, but your machine needs to be able to stop and let you do a manual tool change. Okay. If your machine is just going to take off and run, well, it might not even let you do it. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay. Let me, yeah, I'll go back into this one and I'm going to change, I'm going to remove that bit and I'm going to select my 1/2 inch bit. Okay. Select it, calculate it. So now I'm using 2 different bits here. Now, can I merge? Merging requires all tool paths have the same tool. These tool paths use different tools. Okay, so I can't merge them that way. Let me go up here and will visible tools. It's going to let me save them as one, but that's because my post processor allows for a manual tool change. So it will run, what have I got it set up here? It'll run the 1/4 inch bit, then it'll lift out of the material and tell me to do a tool change. If your machine will not do that, I don't like to do this. I prefer to keep all my tool paths separate. That way I'm in charge of when I run that tool path. I can run this tool path here. I can run this tool path. Then when that's done, go in the house, make a sandwich, come back out, then run this tool path. So the choice is mine. That's just me. That's what I prefer. So let's see what else we got here. And I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. Got that one taken care of. Alan Williamson, how you doing, Alan? I stumbled by accident on the spiral ramp. My question is, can you control the cut depth as it spirals downwards? Not with the ramp. What you'll be doing, let's get back over here to Aspire. And I will, yeah, I'll just leave it like it is. Let's zip over here real quick. And I want to put a 1/4 inch hole in the middle. No, let's do 0.375. And there we go. Now I've got a 3/8 inch diameter hole in the center of my piece. And I know you didn't ask about this, Bruce. I'm going to use your example here. So I've got this. I'm going to do a profile tool path. Here is where I will cut. Here's where I will select my cut depth. Okay. So if I want this all the way through, let's say this is a lamp base. So I'll go Z equals. And I'm going to select my 1/4 inch end mill. And select that. And I'm going to cut inside that vector. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a ramp. I'm going to add a spiral ramp. And we see everything else grays out. Okay. So here is where I set the cut depth. All the spiral ramp does is when that bit first starts to come down, it doesn't plunge straight down. It gets down to your safe Z position, then it starts spiraling. And then it's going to lower itself down into the material and make this cut. So we'll do that. And we'll slow it down and preview it. And there we go. So the spiral is used, a spiral ramp is used in conjunction with the toolpath you're creating. So hope that answers that. Let's see here. Okay, here's one from Stevie B. Is there any advantage or disadvantage in using a 4-flute bit compared to using a 2-flute bit? It depends. And I know that's not what you want to hear. It depends. Okay. It depends, number one, on what material you're cutting. If you're cutting acrylic or plastic or something like that, do not use a 4-flute bit. And I'm assuming you mean just standard end mills. Okay. And the reason for that is when you compare a 2-flute bit versus a 4-flute bit, what it's effectively doing is doubling the RPM. Okay. Instead of the flute coming around and making one cut, you have another flute right behind it. So it's making 2 cuts. You are going to build up heat and you are going to melt your acrylic or your foam or your HDPE. To be honest, if you're cutting any of those materials, a single flute, O flute bit, and the O stands for open. It's an open flute bit. You've got the cutting flute, the cutting edge, and then it looks like a real wide, deep trench with a real steep helix, the real steep spiral. So it evacuates those chips and takes the heat with them. Now it's designed to get those chips and that heat out of there, so it doesn't have a chance to melt. You just don't have as much chip clearance with a 4-flute bit. I've seen people use them. I don't like to use them, but then again, my surfacing bit has 3 flutes. I have a 60-degree V bit that has 6 flutes, and it makes excellent V carves. So that's why I say it depends on what you're doing and what material that you're working with. So if you're talking about woods, sheet goods, plywoods, I would go with just standard 2-flute spirals. If you have the need for 4-flute bits, if you do aluminum or things like that, then that's completely different. I don't do metal. I'm a wood guy. But generally speaking, I don't have any 4-flute bits in here anymore, just simply because they build up heat real fast. You'll notice burning, and rather than cutting chips, you'll be making dust, just simply because unless you really ramp up your feed rate, just simply because it doesn't have a 4-flute bit doesn't have time to get the chip out of there before another flute comes around and cuts that chip again. So I just don't like 4-flute bits. They have their place, though. I just don't do any of that kind of work. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, Dion from Misty Woods says, I need to buy my own 4x8 CNC machine. All right. The Avid CNC offers 4 and 8.7 horsepower spindles. What's the benefit of going 8.7? Well, 4.7 more horsepower. But I've had to make this call myself because when I was configuring excuse me. when I was configuring my Avid, um, it was a toss up. And when I talked to them about it, they said, well, do you do a lot of slabs? Do you do a lot of surfacing slabs? No, I don't. Okay. Do you do a lot of heavy duty cutting? No, I don't. I'm a weekend warrior. I'm a home hobby guy. They said, well, you'd just be wasting money to go with the 8.7 horse spindle. Now, if you are surfacing a lot of slabs, and I mean a lot of them, then you might have a reason to get the 8.7. I know a guy lives not too far away from me down in Redding, California. He has an Avid 4x4 with the 8-horse spindle, 8.7 horse spindle. And he said if he had to do it all over again, he'd have just bought the 4-horse because he doesn't do anything that warrants needing that 8.7 horse spindle. Now, the one thing I will say that the 8.7 does that the 4-horse doesn't do is, as it sits right now, they have the 8.7 ATC, automatic tool changer. They do not have the 4-horse automatic tool changer yet, but it's coming. So if you're thinking about the automatic tool changer, right now the 8.7 is your only option. Okay. The other thing that it does that the 4-horse won't do, and just know these are all air-cooled spindles. The 8.7 will run at a lower RPM than the 4-horse will because the 8.7 has 2 fans where the 4-horse only has a single fan. The 4-horse will slow down to 6,000 RPM, and I believe the 8.7 will slow down to 1,000. Okay. So if you're looking to do something like using drill bits, which I don't recommend, you can slow it down enough to where you can use a drill bit on the machine. But if the drill bit is not made for CNC work, I personally don't think it's a good idea. But that's me. Other than that, it's like double the money. And so what I would do if it were me, it is definitely rigid enough for that horsepower. The Avid CNC is definitely rigid enough for that horsepower. There are companies back east that run 12-foot, the 5-foot by 12-foot machines, and that's all they do is surface slabs with it. And it runs a 3-inch diameter surfacing bit all day long, and they're taking off a 1/4 inch per pass. And that's all they do with that machine. So the Avid is more than rigid enough for it. But I basically sit down and take an honest assessment of how you're going to use the machine. And if you are going to be surfacing a lot of thick, heavy materials, then you probably do need the 8.7. But if you're cutting mainly sheet goods and one-off projects like I do, I'm a weekend warrior. I have no need for the 8.7. The 8.7 is air-cooled. They're all air-cooled. They're all air-cooled. So John Thumb says 5x12, that's huge. They posted pictures on their Instagram last year. Avid CNC did. They shipped their largest machine to date. This is one machine, and its capacity is 7 by 50 feet. It's 7 foot wide, 50 feet long. And yeah, that's a behemoth. That's serious machine capacity there. So Let's see here. Yeah, these are air cooled, and I've never had an issue. That's a great spindle. That's a Heitco spindle, 4 horse, and it doesn't even feel like it doesn't even feel the materials I cut. So to be honest, it's a bit of overkill for what I do. So okay, John Thumb wants to know. Started doing resin in my wood projects. Do you use resin? At times, yes. And if so, do you use a vacuum chamber or pressure pot? For resin, you want to use a pressure pot. You don't want to use a vacuum chamber. Vacuum chamber will vacuum chambers are more for making latex molds to uh, excuse me, to degas the latex when you mix them. It'll pull all the air out and what have you. But for resin, a pressure pot is the way to go. It really is. So and you know I have a California Air Tools 18-inch diameter pressure pot. I could just about bathe in the thing. It's huge, and it works really well. So the only thing you have to concern yourself with is I don't know if you're like making pen blanks or small projects. If you're using countertop epoxy, like you're doing epoxy signs, like the pirate that I did a couple of years back, you're only pouring, well, you're pouring less than an eighth of an inch deep. You do not need to use you do not need to use a pressure pot for stuff like that. Just a torch over the top. Some people use a heat gun. I don't like a heat gun because then you run the risk of blowing uh, stuff all over the place, the wet resin. I just hit it with a torch to pop those bubbles. I torch it every 10 minutes for the first hour, and then you're fine. So it's, but if you're doing casting, anything more than say, anything more than I would say 3/8 of an inch thick, or the potential is there to trap a lot of air. Like if you're doing, you're casting pine cones in resin or something like that, you've got a lot of nooks and crannies where air could get trapped, then you want to use a pressure pot. So I know some people do use a vacuum chamber with epoxy, but there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Brown down in California, down in the Napa Valley, and he did a comparison a few years ago. I'll have to go look for it, but look for Peter Brown. This guy is the master of epoxy. He has cast all kinds of stuff, some goofy stuff, some serious stuff, but it's pretty cool, the stuff he does. But he did a comparison. This is what happens when you put resin in a vacuum chamber, and this is what happens when you put silicone in a pressure pot. So basically, going with his expertise, because he's been doing this for years and years and years. If I'm using resin, I'm using a pressure pot. That's all there is to it, you know. So let's see here. Um, California Air Tools. California Air Tools. What I'll do is let me see. I will go track down the pressure pot I have, but you can also, it'll be on Amazon affiliate link. No cost to you. Just I'll get if you buy something, I'll get a little commission and you'll get my thanks. It's no cost to you. I'll find a link to the pressure pot and put it in the description as soon as we're finished here. I will also go back and look for that comparison that Peter Brown did with the pressure pot versus the vacuum chamber. And I'll put a link to that if I can find that video. I'll put a link to that down in the description as soon as we're done here. So, and while you're over there, subscribe to Peter Brown. The guy is a nut. He is he's very, very good at what he does. He's a turner, and he just likes to cast strange things. He made a shop clock. I kid you not. He thawed out a frozen pizza and cast it, then made a shop clock out of it. That'll give you some idea of what the kind of hijinks that goes on there. So he has a series called Dip It, where he just wants to cast things in resin and see how they work. He cast a piece of bacon in resin and then turned a handle for a vegetable peeler. Yes, vegetable peeler with bacon in the handle. What can you say? Let's see here. I think that's all the questions that I've got here. Yes, I'm caught up with questions. Let's see. Dion says I use a Laguna Swift 4x8 with no issues with the water controlled spindle, but several issues with the Rich Auto controller. Okay, I can't speak to the Rich Auto controller, but I can say that Avid has, with I want to say it was last August, they went from Mach 4 controller to they call it the EX controller system, and it uses Centroid Acorn. I'm still getting used to it. I'm still making mistakes with it. It is a little bit different learning curve, and it's just simply you've got to do certain steps in order. They've got a lot of good videos. They've got some real good instructions, and having assembled this, then modified it with the rotary axis, then taking out the Mach 4 controller and putting in the EX controller system, I can say Avid CNC's instructions are some of the best instructions I have ever followed. And it's all online, and you just follow it step by step. And oh man, is it nice. It's real nice. So, did I get anywhere with the spiral? Not really. I'm having the same issue you're having, Kurt. I'm having the same issue you're having. So, let's see here. Did I miss in the video, but was there a way to move the pivot point by an incremental dimension? Yes. Well, let's get into it. Let's see. We're going to go in here and we're going to reset the preview. Shoot over there, 2D view. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Delete. And I'll just throw up a piece of text here. Doesn't matter what it is. Well, as soon as my computer decides it wants to load my fonts. This is the problem with having too many fonts on the computer. Come on, you can do it.
All right, there we go. And I'll use a capital S. That's good enough. Close. All right. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit smaller. There we are. Okay, so I select the object and we go into rotate. Now, you're talking about moving the pivot point by an incremental dimension. You can move your pivot point right here. So, probably about the only way, other than just dragging it somewhere, using guides or what have you, you're going to have to use coordinates. Nudging it over, you would probably have to do that by hand. You'd have to do that manually. You've got it clicked. Yeah, and the only way you can move this is click and drag or use coordinates. So if you know that you want to lift, if you know you want to move it over, say 20 thousandths of an inch in X, you'd go 02, then apply and move it that way. And that is in absolute dimensions. That is not relative. So that is in absolute coordinates. I think that's the only way to move that pivot point with any amount of accuracy. Okay, I'm just used to a CAD program with the precision postings settings. Okay. Yeah. That's the only way I can think of to move that pivot point is either dragging it manually or loading your absolute coordinates here. So, let's see here. Did everybody understand the difference between absolute and relative? So, John, no, I don't. I would go with, well, first of all, I would probably contact the machine manufacturer, and they probably will be the people to get you a collet. If lacking that, I would go to some place like Bits and Bits or Precise Bits or something like that. Okay. Let's see. Is there a plug and play spindle available that just plugs in and bolts onto your machine, the same as replacing a router? I don't know about plug and play because, well, you're over in the UK and you have 220 volt standard. But most most spindles are 3-phase. Yeah, Ellen is recommending PWN for spindle, but he's in the UK and they have a different electrical system. It's 220 volt 50 cycle and not the 120 that we 60 cycle that we have here. So I can't think of a supplier right off the top. Yeah, see, that's the problem. I don't know if it would probably still need a VFD because the spindle motors are generally speaking 3-phase, and that's what that VFD does is it changes that 3-phase down to single phase. So I can't think of any suppliers in the UK. And getting it from the US would be outrageously expensive, I'm sure. Let's see here. Oh, yes, I was asking. Did everybody, did anybody have any questions on this here? The absolute versus relative. Absolute coordinates being your zero, your x0 is 0 degrees. And we want to select this and do an absolute rotation of 45 degrees. So we'll go 45 positive and apply it. That's an absolute coordinate. It's 45 degrees from this 0 line. If I spin it around like so and kind of get it in the middle, but I still want it at that, then decide, nope, I need to take that back to 45 degrees. I can come back and do 45 degrees. Apply. That's absolute in reference to my x0, y0. If I want to take it back to straight up and down, I'll go to 0 and apply. If I have played around out here and got this thing so many different kinds of messed up, it's not even funny. Well, I can do an absolute rotation, take it back to 0, then move it back to where I had it before. So double click on that center and it brings that rotation center back to the middle. Okay. Close. Remove. Let's see here. If I do a V-carve on a curved surface, how do I create the curved surface? Depends on what it is. This is something that's worthy of its own video. Let's do this. What kind of curved surface are we talking about? Because you have access. Now I'm using the Spire, but in V-carve, you still have access to the clip art down here. And you can take domes or dishes and just double click to put this dome out here. Go back into my design tab. And I'm going to shift like so. And now I want to V-carve this in that dome. Okay. All I'll do is when I go to V-carve, come right down. Oh, material thickness. Okay, we're doing material setup. All right. When you in the V-carve toolpath, you're going to V-carve this letter S in this dome. Here's the secret right here. Project the toolpath onto the 3D model. Okay. So calculate, and that letter S will be curved. I don't know if you can see that. Let's go over here to look at it. That letter S will be curved. Okay. So how do you get that curved surface? Again, because it's V-carve, you cannot create a 3D model, but you do have the clip art available to you. And you can kind of play with it a little bit. All right. Let's see what time we got. Been on 55 minutes. Okay. Let's go back into the 2D view here. And I'm going to make this bigger than my material. All right. And now I'm going to make a rectangle that is 10 by 10 and shaboom. Now I'm going to go over to my component tree. I've got my dome / dish. I'm going to select the component, then select that rectangle I just made, and right click on the level. Come down here to clipping. Apply. Now you don't see anything here in the 2D view, but I just clipped that dome to that rectangle. Let me turn off the clipping so you can see it as it happens. There's that big old dome. In the 3D view, it's only showing how much of that dome is on the material. Make sure that I've got my vector selected. Come up to the level and right click, clipping, apply. Now, this also has some other cool things you can do with it. Instead of remove, instead of clipping to this rectangle, you can clip to that letter S. Come over here to components, go into the 3D view, come back and look at the top. I've got my vector selected, right click, clipping, apply. Now I've clipped that letter S, and you can see it's got a dome shape to it. And you would cut this just as you would any 3D model. So that's one way of getting the curved surface that you're looking for, is to come down into your clip art, find a curved surface, and then play with it over here. You know, use level clipping and trim it up, play with it, have fun with it. So, okay, I think I have caught up with everything. I'm gonna go ahead and if you want the curve to be in just one direction, you can use a 3D tab and stretch it in width. Yes, you most certainly can. And then some. Let me do this. Let me come back over here to clip art. 2D view. Let's get rid of all of this. Delete. And we'll come down here to get 3D tabs. Now you've got several types of 3D tabs here. You've got flat tabs. You've got pyramid shapes. You've got parallelograms, kind of a truncated pyramid with a flat top instead of a pointy top. You've got circular. You've got all kinds of different tabs here. I'm going to take this 1/4 inch tab and click it once, put one out here. Now, just because it says it's a 1/4 inch tab doesn't mean that it has to stay a 1/4 inch. Michael Bell is 100% correct. You can, oops, I'm sitting here trying to twist it. Now when I look at my 3D view, it's still clipped to that S. Let me go back over here and turn off clipping. Shaboom. Now I've got that surface. Circular is what I use in my logs. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool, actually. So, all right, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. As I said, I'm kind of firing on 3 cylinders and going to the dock in the morning. Channel members, on that note, I hope not, but I may have to cancel tomorrow night's members only live stream, depending upon what the doctor says. Okay. I don't want to do it, but if I have to, I have to. So if not, if you don't hear anything about the cancellation, then plan on being there tomorrow. Michael Bernasconi is going to be doing a little bit more 3D work, helping us all out. And we're going to give it a good go. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. So don't quote me on next week being the mirroring vectors video. If not next week, it'll be week and a half. Or excuse me, the week after that. Week and a half. Where'd I get that from? Gosh, I got to go take a nap. So, yeah, if it isn't this next weekend, it'll be the weekend after. I'll have the mirroring vectors video up. So, yeah, I'll post over on my community tab for channel members the decision on what's going tomorrow. So, other than that, I'm going to say y'all take care. I'm off to take a nap. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. And y'all have a good night, good afternoon, good evening.